Okay, we have a great treat this week. We're going to have Joe Graf here. And as some of you haven't seen me before, lucky you, now you get to. And we also get to see Professor Graf, who is here at American.
Thanks. It sounds like fun.
And this is going to be rough, but I know my students will be generous in their judgment of this. We're trying new technology, and they know that I was in South Carolina last week trying to learn a lot of this stuff. So, my students are blogging, and I think they're enjoying it from what I can tell. And we've been reading Robert McChesney's book about the crisis in the media. And we are looking at the idea that, you know, his position is the media, the mainstream media, are not doing their job in terms of democracy in the United States. And now we have this new independent way of interacting where people can be individual journalists. And Joe, Professor Graf, has done research on how media interacts with democracy. And he's done studies, extensive studies, with at George Washington University. So he has a study on blogging, and I'd like you to just tell me a little bit about it.
Sure. We tried to look online through a series of online surveys to poll people about how they felt about blogs and bloggers. And let me make a couple points. First of all, we're particularly interested in political bloggers, or people who are reading blogs about current events and politics. And I think as your students read in the regular media about blogs, they should keep this in mind. There are millions and millions and millions of blogs out there, but among them, only a small number are dedicated to current events and politics. So most people blogging are blogging about their vacations, and most blogs are not read. So that's important to understand. And then among all these people who are reading blogs, and when we poll people who are online, you know, 30 to 40% say, yes, I've looked at a blog. And you'll see that, and they will see that, your students will see that in the press. And these numbers are large and impressive, and wow, 40% looking at blogs. But they have to really view that with a critical eye. Within that 40% who have seen a blog, there are then just a tiny proportion who are these sort of dedicated viewers of political and current events blogs, and who look at them every day or nearly every day and then post comments. And these are sort of the core people who are politically active, who we talk about. These are the people we're really talking about when we're talking about the blogging community. So they should understand that it's a small community. It's 5 to 10% of everybody who's online, maybe, and this is an educated guess. So that's important for them to understand. I think among this group, they are older than students might guess.
That was interesting to me, the fact that, you know, the average newspaper reader is in his or her 50s, the average network news watcher is in their 60s, and here bloggers too are in this older...
They are much older than we realized. So I'd have to look at the numbers, but I believe it was in the 40s or 50s. And it's surprising because this technology is so new, everybody assumed these are all 25-year-olds, and they're not. Now, certainly a lot of young people engage in politics and blogs, but the average age is higher than we expected. Someone like myself, that's a little discouraging because we thought these blogs might be serving as a way to pull young people into current events and politics and civic life, and so I'm not sure if that's the case. When we talk to these people, we can say a couple things, and I think your students probably were well aware of one of them, and that is that these people who look at political blogs every day use blogs and use the internet as their primary source of information. Now, if you ask some of your students, they might say, oh yeah, I use the internet for my primary source of information, but if you really push them, you'll find that in fact they're looking at the New York Times online, or they do get a newspaper, or they do actually catch the news on TV once or twice a week. These heavy blog readers are isolated more to the internet and getting all their information online and getting all their information from these blog sources. So that's one thing. The other thing is that they really dislike the mainstream media. So the movement that you're talking about is one of the driving forces for the blog community for pulling people on these blogs and energizing them.
That struck me. I mean, they hate the mainstream
They
media.
hate the mainstream media.
I mean, what is behind that sort of virulent attitude?
Well, you know, that's a good question. I think a lot of things. One is I think it's historical. We can look back to the Vietnam War and to Watergate and growing disenchantment with the establishment and with the media. And that has continued to grow. And so clearly that's part of it. There's something more as well for this group. I think that that the dislike of George Bush, frankly, pushed many people in this direction. I think the war has energized a lot of people. And their anger toward the war has become anger towards the mainstream media. There are other things as well that come to mind, but that's a really good question because there's a great deal of anger there, and I think current events probably have something to do with it.